Bonjour, and welcome
Showing
to
off.
the next guest demo. So I'm really excited to have our friend Ollie Bersey from Framestore here today. Thank you so much for coming, Ollie.
My pleasure.
And if you haven't heard of Framestore, put your seatbelt on. This is one of the most amazing companies really in the post-production industry worldwide. Ollie, tell us a little bit about yourself and Framestore, and then we'll play the reel and get started.
Do some stuff.
Sure, I've been at Framestore for very nearly 20 years, my entire career. I joined the company as a trainee tape op, did a bit of that for a few years, then did some work on Henry, working on kind of long form stuff first, Merlin, Alice in Wonderland, Walking with Dinosaurs, moved into commercials, went on to Smoke in 2004, and sort of headed that growing department, did 10 years there, and then last year
You took
something
the
a bit
leap.
more interesting.
You took the leap into flame, which we're
Yeah.
so excited about. And the fun thing about that is the first project that you worked on was just this, epic example, I think, of how you can really take advantage of the flame tools. And it's Doctor Who. But first, why don't we play the Framestore reel, and then we'll come back and look at Doctor Who.
Sure.
So let's start with that.
So there.
All right, isn't it?
So what do you think of
It's
that?
all right, not too
It's
bad,
pretty
is it?
good,
Not
right?
too shabby.
Yeah, that's a very impressive reel. So
Anyway.
we were talking about your first project. So you used to work more on Smoke Advanced, what we call Smoke Advanced, more of an editorial style of working.
Yeah, but I was always hungry to do more effectsy stuff, and I was always having conversations about, come on, I can do that, and but we knew that when we knew the anniversary edition coming along, we knew that the smoke and the flame were kind of heading towards each other a bit on a bit of a collision course. So we took the decision that we would look to all move into flame and combine the team. We just needed to find a point to do it. And I was on the Doctor Who job on the set, thinking, this lends itself to it actually.
Right,
So-
right. You were thinking 3D tracking, frozen particles, frozen moment.
Exactly. It's one of these jobs where I thought, yeah, I'll find a way of doing that. And I thought, well, okay. If I had a 3D tracker, I'd be able to do that. If I had some particles, I'd be able to do that. If I had, some nice, tasty lighting, IBLs and things, I'd be able to do that. I've got a flame sitting there waiting to start going.
Yeah.
Oh, but
Just,
Lovely
need,
go.
just need to learn it over the weekend.
But not
That's
just
all.
Yeah.
no, that was the problem. Not just one flame, was it? Because you were on 2012 at the time,
Yeah,
and you decided not only to go to flame, but also to go to a brand new version. It was 2014, which you did the Doctor Who job on.
I did.
And so learn Flame, learn a new piece of software. And just for those of you who haven't seen it, I mean, it was only sort of like, it was the world's biggest simultaneous broadcast, wasn't it? The Doctor Who
50th anniversary, yeah.
something or other. It was
it?
Yeah.
ridiculous. So just
Confess I
refresh
didn't know that.
ourselves. Ollie's first job on 2014 Flame. Can we see the
Yeah,
Doctor Who?
let's take a
spot?
look at Doctor Who.
It's only a little thing. Something he knocked up.
I've been running all my life. Through time and space. Every second of every minute of every day for over 900 years. I fought for peace in a universe at war. Now the time has come to face the choices I've made in the name of the Doctor. Our future depends on one single moment of one impossible day. The day I've been running from all my life. The day of the Doctor.
And then after lunch, what do you do?
I look for another job.
Look for another job. So what's quite incredible about that piece is you may be looking at it and thinking, well, there's loads of CG, there's obviously it was actually all live action elements
All in Flame.
and things that Ollie had to make up in Flame, because that's the only way you could really do it.
That's the way I could do it, yeah. And the job kind of evolved. It wasn't meant to look like that. It was meant to be a lot more in camera. But as I got in there and started tracking the cameras and thinking, well, actually now I've got the camera, I can change all of that. It developed into a much bigger thing, and for the better, I think.
And on the strength of that, because this was done for the same production companies you did the EastEnders
Yeah.
spot for, you just kind of went on from that one, and you got this EastEnders, this whole EastEnders. So for those of you who don't know, EastEnders is a long-running English soap. I don't know how long. It's a long time.
It's got to be
30 years,
yeah,
35 years,
yeah.
something like that. Anyway, so there's a huge plot line at the moment where someone's been killed again this week.
Yeah.
So to sort of drive this whole storyline, they did this very moody sort of trailer, like who killed, was it Lucy
Beale.
Who killed Lucy Beale? And basically it looks like from this trailer, everybody probably did, but obviously not. But anyway, if we can have a look at that.
Yeah, and just to say that you did Doctor Who was your first Flame job,
Oh.
and then it was with the same production company, I
Yeah,
believe,
yeah.
right?
Was
That's
it
right, yeah.
They
Red Bee,
came
wasn't it?
back and said maybe they probably were impressed, and that led to this piece,
Probably.
which
I
I
hope
think is
so.
even more interesting. So let's
Yeah.
take a look at EastEnders.
Yep, someone did it.
Yeah.
Find out this Christmas. I can't wait. Anyway, so once again, the whole idea about this is it's like this frozen moment. Once again, this was all live action again
Yep.
on this one. You were shoot supervisor for VFX on this.
I was, yeah. The idea was a load of cinemagraphs where kind of the whole thing is frozen and something's moving, but we were able to add the extra dimension of the camera moves in there as well, and just kind of get in there.
And I think, and once again, going from your background, I think one of the things that you found quite nice with the new version of Flame from what you were working on with Smoke was the continuation of the timeline, the introduction of the timeline into Flame, kind of allowing you to work on either the whole timeline or pull out selected shots in
Yeah.
context.
Yeah, I like to
So
do a
what
bit of
Ollie's going to
both.
show us is his own work. So this is basically the opening shot, the establishing shot over Albert Square, which is a mythical place of London. So don't try and book a trip there because it doesn't really exist. And once again, it's how Ollie was using Flame to solve some of the basic problems like set reconstruction, and then use it also to do the creative add-ons as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could sort of say this is kind of, the first bit is kind of conventional 2D comp work in that it's just a bit of a clean-up. This is what Albert Square actually looks like in North London, not East Enders. They've got all this kind of studio complex in the background that doesn't really set the scene. So, Ollie, can we get rid of that? Of course we can. So, the process through that is with my 3D tracker. I was able to track that camera. I'll just unhide that. We can look at that.
So one of the nice things about this, I mean, once again, I think this is one of the things that you were missing in Smoke, was it the ability to sort of do in-context camera tracking?
Yeah, the ability to do it all myself really without having to move things around, wait for things. I want to do things now.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it straight away, and I want to do it myself because then I know what's happening. That's kind of the way I am. It doesn't always make me that popular. It's
all good here.
It's all good. So that you know, that tracked very nicely. These guys are actually just standing still, but they're trained actors. They could stand still.
I'm sure the Royal Actors Society is going to be glad about that.
Yeah.
3 years to stand still.
And so there's a couple of problems here. The background is a problem, and also the foreground chimneys are the problem. So the first thing with the background is just by highlighting kind of reference points in my track and kind of getting locators out, I can start to build up using dozens of different elements.
So you kind of like use image libraries, you sort of go around with the camera taking stills.
Just take a bit of everything. I mean, for this, it just needed variety. Unfortunately, there was no one panorama that would work, so I had to build lots of different stuff up. But because I needed to do that in different stages of Z space, that worked well anyway.
Yeah.
So everything kind of is working. It looks a bit strange there because there's no foreground to reference it, but it's all kind of doing the right kind of thing now. We've got a live 3D scene, and I like to split things up.
Yeah,
so
it works.
I don't get bogged down with what I'm doing. You know, at Framestore we move jobs around between operators quite often with things overrun or come into changes. So it's very important for us to keep things clear. So I like to, this is one stage, this is the next stage, this is the next stage. So this stage here is just fairly straightforward, getting the stills in, getting them color corrected, getting them tracked in, and then we move on and kind of restore everything back together. And as soon as the restore starts happening, then you can see that camera move makes perfect sense.
So when you break your things up, there's some consistent things that you do inside of your batches where you get to a point you go, well, this is kind of good, and at this point I can sort of pre-render this or like pre-comp this up to this point.
Exactly. I want to effectively make this position start now. You know, I want to move on with a shot, and I don't want to have to be working all the way out through. So kind of do a nice little pre-render, and on Flame I like to do a lot is this thing, create this batch effects, which kind of pops everything I've done into a single clip, which I can go in and edit if I need to, but I can kind of render that, and off it goes, and.
So once again, this is kind of like a quite nice thing, because what Ollie's actually done is taken all of this flow graph, all of the schematic there, and he's actually baked it down into one clip, which will run at real time. But more importantly, it contains all the information of that flow graph. So if you actually wanted to hand off this whole setup, this whole section here, to another operator, all they actually have to do is just hand over that one clip, and they could just explode everything back.
Everything's inside it. I mean, just for me, I liked it. I mean, I could quite easily get rid of all that stuff now, knowing that everything's buried in there. But I quite like to keep things clear so I know where I've been, what I've done. And also, I might well find I need to pull out, use this mat here or something again.
Yeah.
Okay, but for me, that kind of clean-up bit of the shot is sort of finished, with the exception of the chimneys. So that was the next thing to do. And again, this is just straight back to just going out and taking some stills of some chimney stacks, the chimney pots, in the garden and things.
You have chimney stacks in your garden?
Yeah, loads of them.
Use them as plant plots, don't we?
And actually, I could have used that same 3D track, but actually, for speed and I kind of think I probably went and did that first, actually, and started building backwards. I did a quick 2D track on here. It was quick. It was fine. It was done. It was finished.
Yeah.
You know, it's start and end, and off we were done. So that was done.
But the other interesting thing about, like you were saying about having to make things up, because the thing on the final is there's a frozen pigeon, and we don't mean the kind you can go and buy at a supermarket and eat later, but it's frozen in there.
That's very good.
But this,
Thank you very much.
I think the story of the pigeon here in the foreground, though, is another one of the interesting things that connects to your background, which is most operators probably would have said, "Why don't we just get CG to make us a pigeon or some?" But you were able to, again, you wanted to control it yourself.
I want to control. Well, first of all, same old thing. I didn't really have time or budget for a CG bird. But secondly, I didn't have time to sit there waiting for it, and I thought, we don't need it.
Yeah.
You don't need it. Why would you need that? It's just, the first thing is to try still in there. It still's not really going to work unless we stick it back over the other side of the Albert Square. So for this, I just needed to just do a little bit of fake 3D, really, and make it work. If I was to just look at this and start kind of spinning around, you realise that really all I've got is 3 flat cards, 2 wings, which I have just kind of opened up in 3D space, and then I've bent the actual still back, using bicubics to make it kind of fit, and stuck it on the flat card of the body.
And then you were using your original camera move that you got the track at the beginning to once again crane over it.
All of that's been done. I can get that across. And the other thing I quite like doing here is kind of actually to get to that stage. There's a few things. There's some painting. There's some keying. There's some garbage masking. There's a bit of pixel spread, tidying up. And again, that can make quite a complicated batch tree. So one of the nice things about the Modular Keyer I like is that I can kind of contain all of that inside. And I've got my key here, my garbage mask. I've got some color correction going on. I've got a pixel spread just because I'm lazy. And
really, it's a great little tool.
It's a very one of the very good tools.
It cleans up your edges.
Last few years.
Yeah.
And a bit of painting to kind of isolate, because of course I had to get the back wing. I had to paint out the front wing.
And I think this is a really nice approach, because people can say, "Oh, well, it's being a bit of a neat freak about things," but I mean, certainly when we've opened up any of your jobs, it's really easy to sort of work out the thought process, what's happened, and little things like this containing, once again, what could be quite complex trees. It does a result. Oh, do I need to get into this? Just and containing things down is quite nice. There's this
little friend here as well, which of course, a year or 2 ago, that got this great freeze frame thing, which gives the kind of sub-render
instantly.
And then so immediately it's a bit like getting an element straight in, a back wing with a mat attached, done. And then again, you're free to do the creative bit and think about where you want to put it without thinking about, oh, I need to get that keying done and stuff. And straightforwardly bringing in those bits. If I wanted it like that, it wouldn't have worked. So we didn't have it like that. We wanted it like
it's
that.
kind of working in perspective.
And
job's done. And then the smoke on the chimney, which
smoke on the chimney, which in this instant was kind of element from our library. We were going to have frozen smoke. I was pushing for frozen smoke a bit, but sometimes.
And once again, the temptation
is based on what I want to do rather than what looks right. And the
temptation for some people is to reach for the CG thing straight away. Go, do me some smoke.
Yeah.
Which once again takes a long time.
And I did have, at one point, that was all frozen. That was all layered up nicely, and you were kind of going through bits of it. But they got rid of that.
Now the thing is, though, I mean, you provided this content for us to make some additional demos to show some new features, and once Stuart got a hold of it, he kind of took it in some other directions using some of the newer features. And
I mean, that's the whole point of the show. We have to, we kind of show people's existing work, but obviously you didn't have access to 2015 at the time, so we thought we'd rejig some of Ollie's setups and see if we could use some of the new tools.
If you wouldn't mind knocking him out of the chair.
Let's his fingers crossed this time.
I think it's kind of fun to have Ollie, who's used to having someone.
Broken it again for you.
See, Ollie's used to sitting in the chair and having someone behind him telling him what to do. Now we're going to have it the other way around. So
thanks. No pressure then. Right. So what we did on this little section was we just took like a couple of the elements and think, how we can sort of kind of basically start to bring these and using some of the new things that we've got inside this version. So as you've probably seen from the show, we've got this new planar tracker. In fact, all our tracking is kind of been revamped completely. And so what we've done in here, I'm just going to hide. So actually, I've already hidden the elements. There you go. I'm almost prepared this time. Brilliant stuff. Just to sort of see how we can start to deal with tracking some of the things. Now, I know you had problems with recreating the Queen Vic's roof. That was like a little bit of a problematic track to get things nice in perspective.
Yeah, it looks like there's loads of things to track, but finding the right track.
It's just kind of flat and grey, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a bit awkward. So, like I said, we got this new tracking technology in this particular version, which basically uses, find where that's put that, thank you very much, which basically uses the ability to use our in-context G-mask as a region of interest to track from. So what's kind of quite nice is that you can start to replace using the old point tracker with something like this. So to get on track on this, all I simply did was drew a really sort of rough area. Now, the default behavior of this is that it's actually going to act as a mask, but you can actually just disable that. And what's nice about this is that you can actually come in now into this tracking view and actually attach the axis. We've got a new tracking tab. Within there, you've still got your old point tracker, but you've got access to our new planar tracker. And what's kind of groovy about that is that you can start to use just a shape to be a tracking area, and that can control perspective, or in this particular case, just act as a point locator. We've got various things that we can do, but basically you can see that we can pick up a reference from this. We can also analyze on RGB colors, and we just literally went through and just got this to do like a kind of a quick track just on position scaling and shearing, something like this. So I'm not going to do the whole thing, but that then kind of locks that axis straight on. Now once we've got that, in this particular case, we can actually now use all that tracking information to drive another object. So in this particular case, all I did outside, somewhere over the rainbow, I made up just a plain old gradient, which I should actually still have some down here. Let's come down my list a little bit. We'll find it in a mo. There we go. Big grey gradient. Not very exciting. But then I attached that big grey gradient to this. Now, what that does then is it moves the big grey gradient in kind of perspective. Still doesn't look like a roof. So this is a bit of a cheat. This is now all moving in the correct position, scaling, and space. If we kind of come down to the object type, we change this into a bilinear for a second, it just allows me to distort this very quickly in 3D space. So I can actually come in and just very quickly match the perspective of the Queen Vic's roof. Okay, do something like this. This is all going to be a bit rough and ready, but you are going to get the idea. Super duper, something like this. And because the tracker is driving it, we're just going to get no kind of wobble, just adjust that down. But you get the whole principle is that you can quickly just drop things in. And we did kind of exactly the same thing with these flower pots, as they are in your garden, or chimney pots as they are in Albert Square, where we just literally drew a rough shape. This is just a G-mask, and we just literally go through and it will track with the perspective as it comes closer to camera. So then once again, anything we kind of attach to that will actually react with it. So if we just unhide a couple of these are some that I did a little bit earlier, as it were, just to kind of speed up the process. You can see what happens is that we start to get objects kind of start to be pinned into these, right? We've got the proper roof happening there. Let's come back to my result view there for a second. And the last kind of thing that we did on some of this is actually we put in some smoke. Okay, so the last thing we had to sort of put in this was our smoke coming onto top. And we just really sort of reused all these tracking points from the chimney pots to drop it in. Now in this particular case, I actually put in some particle smoke.
Oh,
right?
You want to throw away your original roof.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well that one. So once again, what's kind of quite nice about doing this is that we ship the system with a whole bunch of particle presets and lens flares and things like that. Now, what you can do is you can build these from scratch, or you can modify them. But what's kind of nice about this is once again, you don't generally have time to figure out what you want to do. So we looked at this, and this is just like a particle system that ships with the system, but it's a bit too quick and frantic for what we want to use. We want to kind of slow the whole thing down and put it in place. Now, I haven't got time to go through and modify the speed and the position of everything else. So what's really nice about this is taking on what you did about making a batch effect from this. So basically, I took this action, I came here, I made a batch effect of the particle smoke, so it's now a clip. And then I took that and I ran it through a time warp and slowed it down to about 25% or 15%, whatever I put, with a bit of motion estimation on, and then plumbed that in as my new plate into the actual final scene. So, and the whole process took me like a couple of minutes to then sort of kind of recreate and drop that particle smoke in, once again attached to all the trackers. So I think when you get hold of this, I think what you'll really like is just like the general usability of the tracking now. You can just put basically loads of shapes where you want them to be, and they can do anything from a simple left and right to a full perspective track, just kind of based on one shape, which...
Kind of giving you a 3D tracker without all the
3D tracker
the
without
work.
the 3D track.
Exactly.
Without the work.
Exactly. No, I think it's a huge improvement in terms of the
Brilliant,
usability. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it
great.
just speeds things up.
So I think that's a great place to show Ollie's reel and kind of wrap up. So Ollie's personal demo reel is what we'd like to show you and kind of leave on that and just give you guys an idea of some of the great work he's done the past 20 years at Framestore.
Jesus, don't cry. You can rely on me, honey. You can combine anything you want. I'll be around. You were right about the stars. Each one is a setting sun. Tall buildings shake, voices escape, singing sad, sad songs. Tuned to chords strung down your cheeks, bitter melodies, turning your orbit around. Don't cry, you can rely on me, honey. All you can get, turning your orbit around. Last cigarettes are all you can get, turning your orbit around.
All right, a big round of applause for Ollie Bersey from Framestore.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out.
pleasure.
Ollie will be around if he has any questions. He can answer them, I'm sure, and he'll also be here tomorrow. And we're going to re-rack the reel now and come back with another demonstration. This time it's the Flame Premium Power Your Creative Pipeline. So stick around for that. Thanks.